Welcome to the Choose Hard podcast. I'm your host, Cody McBroom. I am a father, husband, entrepreneur, and coach with one sole mission in life, and that is to help individuals live their best life possible. Step one in that is choosing hard. I'm going to help you do today. Today's guest on the show is Andy McCloy. This is a man that I have known for 13 years and has been a voice of reason, a voice of wisdom, a voice of knowledge, experience, and so much guidance over the years. He is somebody who has been a mentor to me in many ways. I met him very early on in my career, as I did a lot of strength coaching, which we're going to talk about today, is just what the strength coaching world is missing in today's age, in today's industry, what gyms are missing, what coaches are missing, what business owners do not understand, and what has allowed people like Andy to be running a gym for 16 years. And before this gym opened, 25 years in total of running gyms. I mean, this guy is the epitome of enduring the long haul of success in the fitness space. He has trained everybody from moms and dads to NFL players, NBA players, college athletes. He has taken kids that are playing football and trained them in the gym all the way through their high school career, college career, and into the NFL. He has jerseys all around his gym. It's so unbelievably just cool, but also impressive and inspiring. And we are going to pick his brain today and learn how he has done what he has done in his career, how he has developed the career and the business that he has developed, and how he has mastered the art of coaching and refined that over the last 2+ decades. So without any further ado, let's chat with a good friend and mentor of mine, the one and only Andy McCloy.
The greatest things in life all start with a challenge.
You must accept that everything is hard before it gets easy.
Everything you want in life begins with a hard path.
All right, Andy, brother, I'm excited to have you on the podcast, man. I always enjoy talking to you, man. You've been somebody in my life as a mentor from afar and at times near. Man, based on the conversation we were just having, I feel like it's been probably, a decade at least. I mean,
I think the first time I met you was probably 13 years ago when I came out to Renton. Yep.
That is crazy. Babyface, boom, boom. Probably didn't have any tattoos yet, maybe a couple.
I think you had a couple. I think you might even had a little bit on the forearm early
okay.
on. Yeah.
I was extending it down to the visible area, man. Gosh, it's so crazy how much time passes. And I'm excited about this because of that. And I think that names and people just look at me with a blank stare. And people, as in trainers and coaches, and they just don't know who I'm talking about, and it blows my mind. And I feel very grateful because I'm 33 years old, so I'm in that younger generation when we're talking about this topic. But because I got into Vigor when I was 18, I immediately was immersed into a group of guys like you and Luca and Steve Krebs and all these people, and it was just tremendous. I was talking to Mike Robertson just the other week, and it was like, man, same thing. He's known me for well over a decade, and I was just a kid. So I'm excited about this because to me, it's like having somebody who has so much experience in the game coming onto the podcast to shed light and touch a lot of those people, because I know a lot of them listen to this podcast. So Andy, thank you for taking time to jump on the show, and I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. I'm excited. And I would even say really quick before we get into this, I think you even had a leg up before you made it to Vigor. What was Tim's name that you went to? I remember you went to, was it Highland Community College, or am I making that up?
Yep, Highline Community College, Tim Vagan.
Tim, like, he was a super connected dude. Like, he knew people in Huntsville as part of like the Olympic swim team. Like, he was a dialed in guy, man. So shout out to him,
Yeah, dude, I met Brett and Gray Cook, who else? Alan Cosgrove, Rachel Cosgrove, Charlie Weingroff. I met all these people. I was very young, and they were coming into our class to speak, and I was going to seminars with Tim and hanging out at his rehab facility in the hospital, watching him work on patients and stuff. So it was cool. And he was the one, I'll never forget, I had like person after person as guest speakers come in the class. And, some of them were PT, some of them owned gyms, and they were like not literally wearing khakis and polos, but it was kind of that vibe.
It was that era.
And then Luca walked in, and I think he was wearing, he had a chain on, and I think he was wearing like a Jordan sweatsuit and saying the F word every other word. And I remember just looking at him being like, this dude owns a gym? This is a totally different vibe than what I've seen the last however many weeks. So, but yeah, he introduced me to him and so many other people, man. So But dude, Andy, give the listeners just a brief intro of who you are, how you introduce yourself, and then I have some questions lined up that I kind of want to roll through.
Sure. I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a gym owner, kind of in that order right there. The reason I say father first is because I've been a father since I was 16 years old. That's kind of a large part of my journey. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. At the age of 22, I moved to Alabama, which I just can kind of simplify to save my life. There was a very good chance I would be dead or in prison if I didn't move. And as soon as I got here, I just arrogantly started a business. I didn't really know what I didn't know, but I had some exposure to a guy that ran a personal training company in the Washington, D.C. area that had a similar background to me. So I had evidence that it could happen. I moved across the country. I had an opportunity to recreate myself. And nothing for nothing, the first time I walked into a Gold's Gym, it was like I'd been transported in a time warp. Like people were still wearing the MC Hammer pants and the string tank tops. And I was like, wow, there's a real opportunity here. So I started that personal training company, eventually took over that gym and multiple others. Around 2005, I pivoted all the way into sport performance. From then till now, we've helped hundreds and hundreds of kids get scholarships. There's been 15 or so kids that grew up in our program that have gone on to the NFL, NBA. We're really well respected all over the country for what we've done with athletes, and I've kind of traversed that whole path from coach to leader, where I was doing everything in the business to now where I'm pretty much operationally irrelevant. I just lead my team and a group of people. We still serve athletes from 7 years old to the professionals, and we also have an adult fitness side of things. And now I'm focused on paying that forward to other gym owners and teaching them all the lessons I've learned, and they can benefit from the wisdom of my mistakes.
I love it, man. It's really cool to see, watch from afar. You work with literally kids, and then they go to the NFL.
Yeah.
I just remember always being amazed by that over the years of just seeing these people just go through the entire process at your gym. Was Alabama known for football and sports and all that when you started getting in sports performance, or was that pretty new when you first moved there?
Well, I mean, I think there's a huge sports culture here, but the University of Alabama was kind of on a downswing, at that point in time. So I don't think everybody knew it as much, but the kids they are different down here, man. And there is a love for sports, and parents support sports, grandparents, it's a heavy sports community, and it's changed a lot over the past 25 years. We've got a lot of people from other parts of the country that have moved here, but I remember just being so blown away with the commitment to sports here, and that was really awesome.
The thing I want to say is what's in the water down there, because it's just a common phrase, but I was talking to a neighbor who had to visit Alabama for work, and I brought you up because you're really the only person I know in Alabama. And I was like, man, he sent me some pictures before in the past, and there's a 12-year-old that towers over me and is just massive, and I was really trying to, this is how I am. I'm thinking of the science of okay, well, why are they big like that? And I'm thinking it can't be the food. And I'm like, is it really hot down there and they get a lot of sun? And is it vitamin D? Is it the sport culture and they start so young that it's kind of this neural development at a young age and they start just growing faster? Do you have any idea, or is there any science behind it?
I think it's probably a little bit of all that, but I would just say there are generational families here that have played college sports. College sports here is professional sports. So there's just so many of these families that have a million relatives and people that they're kin to. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. It's there's a place here called Town Creek that it's actually about 30 minutes from me, but I want to say per capita in the U.S. they've had more professional athletes come out of there than anywhere else. So, and that just it just moves along. And there's kids that grow up here idolizing those people. It's not so much about the NFL. I mean, there is that influence, but if you played at Alabama, that's as big as playing in the NFL here, right? Yeah. And I think it's a little bit more accessible to kids, at least they believe it is. So I think that shapes the influence. But there's definitely some special kids.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool too because those athletes are accessible. They're in your town. I can imagine as kids seeing that is so cool. NFL guys on TV, you don't know how he is in person. But when you see a guy locally who is playing and under the lights and everybody knows him, that's pretty cool. That's inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we've tried to do in our gym is but in between each rack that we have going down our wall, we've hung an NFL jersey of a kid that grew up training in our program, just to kind of let the kids know in the building, like, look, like this is a reality. You know, this is a whole row of kids, you know, that made that happen. So I think there is that proximity to success that has value. A lot of times when guys get to the pros, they don't come back to their hometown as much. But I will say all the guys that we've worked with, they make their presence known here. They have big camps and big events, and they try to inspire the community. And I've got a lot of respect for the guys that do that.
It's so cool, man. It is really, really true. Your proximity and just the group. And I mean, just even saying who was my college teacher and then meeting Luca and interning and then meeting you. And it's like who you surround yourself with is so important in every facet. And there's a big piece of that element that I'm going to touch on with regards to business here soon. But first, just to paint the picture, because I want people to understand how much knowledge you bring to this discussion. How long have you been running a gym, specifically this gym? Because obviously you've been in the industry for a long time, but like your gym out there, which you've written and said publicly multiple times is the best gym in Alabama, and I believe that, and I think you've earned that title. How long have you been running that specific gym? And do you feel like there are any like core pillars, maybe like 1 to 3, I mean, however many you believe, that you think allowed you to actually do that?
So this particular location has been 16 years. We've been in business for 25 years. We were kind of the first people to ever do sport performance training in this community. We ran the very first like speed camps and those things. So we've been around a long time. It's gone from like Andy's gym to now BCI, you know, which is kind of cool. Like the brand kind of stands out just from my name. But in the beginning, I was not quick to try to become like a businessman. Like I recognized that like the main pillar was coaching. It was like, I have to learn how to become a good coach. I told this story at one of our Built to Last events where when I moved to Alabama, like I was just kind of a young hustling kid with that example of a guy running a personal training company. And I was like, I'm going to move down there. I'm going to take over gyms and I'm going to get rich. Well, this was like around early 2000s. And, you know, the internet was a thing. You had to suffer through dial-up. And I can still barely turn a computer on. But back then, I would like find these obscure message boards and like print off articles and read them. And because I didn't want to read on a computer, didn't even like know that was kind of like the way people did things. But I started to realize like this industry is full of brilliant people. And it kind of smacked me in the face right away that it's like, okay, if I want to build a gym, I need to know what the heck I'm doing as a coach first. And I knew that in my soul. So my first thing was like, yeah, I'm gonna build a company, but I'm gonna invest more time in learning the craft of coaching. And I don't think that's the message these days. I think everybody's trying to kind of accelerate their growth and success as fast as possible. I think all the marketers of our world know that, so they market to everybody in that way. In 90 days, you'll be able to do A, B, C, and D. I didn't care about that. What I really cared about was like making a name for myself as a coach. And I knew that I, coming from the background I came from, needed to do so much that nobody was ever going to say, hey, like what college did you go to? Because like I said, I became a father at 16 years old. It was earned. It wasn't go to college. I had a mouth to feed. But I've been a voracious reader my whole life. And I just kind of engrossed myself in all the resources that I could. Then I started traveling all over the country to meet gym owners and the people that I respected, reaching out to strength coaches and just saying, hey, like, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. Like, is it okay if I email you every now and then? And I studied everything from the process of attaining sports mastery that the Russians made popular, to the tier system that Joe Ken, who's been a great mentor of mine, put me onto, all the way down to like Gary Gray, Mike Boyle, Gray Cook, all those guys. I was just, absorbed in all this. And it's amazing now. In that talk I gave, I put up a slide of all these different faces. I was like, can you guys tell me who that is? Nobody in the room knew who Vern Gambetta was. Like I was devouring Vern Gambetta like VHSs. So there was just that is the foundation of everything that's worked for me is a really compulsion for learning. And it started out with coaching first. And then as we started really getting some traction, it was like, okay, I recognize that I'm not going to be a coach for forever. There's not a lot of, 60-year-old personal trainers. And I ended up getting, custody of my oldest daughter when she turned about 13. And that smacked me in the face. It's like, I don't really own a business. My business owns me. So I kind of took everything that I learned from developing a high coaching pedigree and knowledge and just pivoted all that into business. So sales, marketing, persuasion, operations, things that I would have told you 10 years prior that there's no way I could learn it. Like, I'm not good at that. But I just kind of reverse engineered the same process. Like, who are the best people in the world at it? How can I pay for their time? How can I buy their products so I can like borrow their brain and collapse time a little bit to become better at the job than really ever thought I could be.
So would you say, I mean, obviously one pillar is coaching.
Yeah.
Right. Is there, and I love that. I'm almost glad you didn't mention anything else. I want you to, if there is anything else that pops in your head, but I think it's so cool, like, talking about this, because I just get these like flashbacks. I remember interning and having to watch DVDs of, like, I remember Joe DeFranco's DVD, and that's even later than some of the guys you mentioned. I think it was Bill Parisi. I think I had to watch some of his stuff, but like, there was all these DVDs on the bookshelf that I'd take home and watch, right? And you don't get that anymore, because it's almost like, it almost sucks that it's so accessible to put things on YouTube, because anybody can do it. And there's, I mean, Instagram, I finally started making these videos of like just me critiquing and just trying to show people what actually works and what doesn't, because there's so many influencers that are just putting out what they do, and it's just so wild and not helpful for the everyday person. But coaching is a lost art form. So I love that you guys are really pushing that, and you're trying to step forward and really show this to people, because I think that's what allows you to be in business for 25 years. And this gym's 16. That's crazy, dude. I'm going to hit 8 in October, and that feels like a long time.
Yeah.
You know?
Feels
it's
like a couple
crazy.
lifetimes.
It is. It is. And I think most businesses in general fail before 5 years is like the stereotypical thing, right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's data on that might even be like less than that, like less time. Like, people are out of the door these days in like 18 months. Like, they fail faster these days. And I think they have a misaligned expectations. I was under no illusion that this was going to be easy. But I didn't have this constant influx of marketers telling me that in 90 days I'd make $1 million. My expectations were aligned. I knew it was going to be hard, and I didn't expect it to be anything other than hard. And I had better learning paths. Like, I don't even think a lot of people learn through YouTube. I think today's fitness professional is learning through Instagram, and they're getting these very small bits of information. And I think it makes them hard to really, truly know what they're doing. And they don't dig deeper because of the accessibility of stuff online. So, I mean, I think it's the same thing, but it's like learning to learn.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a topic that you want to learn, like, get off social media. You know, find out who the best people in the world are. Like, if you want to learn about copywriting, like, go all the way back and like study John Carlton. Don't get on ChatGPT and ask it to write your copy, right? And I'm not saying that's not a decent strategy, but if you've studied John Carlton and other people, you're going to be much better at like massaging that copy to be more reflective in talking to your audience and your customer. But if you don't know, like, you don't have anything to match that up against. You're just going to rock with what ChatGPT tells you, and then it's apples versus apples. Everybody sounds the same, and yeah. Coming from somebody who uses ChatGPT, and I know you do too for different things, I'll say that I echo it completely. There's never been anything from a copy perspective or a content perspective that doesn't get spit out that I don't tweak or adjust or review. And then on top of that, if you're trying to teach your team how to use ChatGPT to sound like you and brand like you and market like you, good luck trusting just that, because even the way they prompt it is going to be different than you, right? So it's not something you can just completely rely on. Man, you have studied so many different topics, so many different things. You said, learning to learn and everything. What do you feel like what was your purpose behind it in the beginning? I mean, because, I feel like one of the common things I see with you and other guys like you is you have to be really passionate about coaching specifically. Like, back then it wasn't a get rich thing like it is today. Because now online marketers and stuff can say, hey, you're going to make a bunch of money and you're going to go sit on the beach and do whatever. Back then there was no illusion of that. But I would imagine maybe just, I like to lift weights, so I'm going to do this, right? It's cool to be a fitness guy or whatever. What was your why? Like, back then, why did you want this so bad? It is a hard journey. Yeah, I mean, I wish I had one of those like stories that like people would normally tell you. It's like I figured out my why was to do A, B,
Yeah.
C, and D. If I were to give you two things that drove me, I mean, it was survival and trauma, man. Like it's like I had to survive. I had to feed a kid, and I joked with a buddy of mine who's got a similar but different background. I was like, we are just enough traumatized through our life experience to have something to prove, but like not so traumatized that we can't take action on it. I personally think a lot of people, when they're asked that question, they kind of give the answer that the audience wants to hear. And while I would never wish trauma or like being thrust into survival mode at an early age on anyone, there's probably something in your life like that that you can leverage that you're not thinking about. For me, it's like I didn't want, I moved away from an area and I never wanted to be another story of all the people I grew up with that were just locked up in trouble and made nothing of their life. So when I came out here, it was like my why was like to start over. I didn't know how to redefine myself or how to shift my identity. I didn't even know what that meant. I just knew that like I had a kid to feed. This was the only path that made sense to me. I was virtually unemployable. Quite frankly, I sold drugs when I was younger. It wasn't like I had a lot of job experience to anchor onto, but I was like, this is what I think I can do well. And for some reason, I had an intuition about that. And I just doubled down on it. And, I'd like to think that was, God in my life before I was even aware of that. And, I've just kind of followed that path, for my whole life. So that's just, I wish I had a better story for the listeners, but that's just the truth.
I think that's good, man. I think that I don't know if you've ever done this, but it's interesting if you kind of like dig into your past and not literally relive, but kind of relive some of the stories, some of the things that maybe terrible situations and just average situations, people that came and went or whatever. And if you actually start to investigate, you'll find a purpose behind all of those in your path to where you are now. And I think that it just anchors you to it. And even just trusting your gut and knowing like this is, for whatever reason, this is the path God has for me. I'm going to lean into it and I'm going to roll with it. And obviously it's worked out pretty well,
Yeah. I mean, I think everything that I went through in my youth, like one of the reasons I've worked with so many high level athletes, is that I speak the language where a lot of these guys come from. Like I understand it. So even professional athletes that aren't from this area that I've ended up working with, they might be from New Jersey or Philly or like, I know the environment that they're from. I know how to speak to that kid. When I got my first high school contract here at a local high school, it was a private school, but they did mission work in the local projects. Well, they would bring these kids over from the projects, and the first thing they would do is like, hey, send them to go talk to Andy, because they knew like I could talk to those kids. So I do think there's been so many things in my life that have led to this point. There was certainly purpose behind that struggle. Even learning how to wake up early and work late nights. Like I had a lot of struggle early on in my life where I was doing that to overcome certain struggles. I was up early hustling and I was going to bed late. So, I mean, it really fed and lent itself really to what I used to do. Now I want to be home by 5 p.m. and bed at 9. And if I can sleep till 6, that's ideal.
Yeah. I got the same schedule now, man.
Yeah. Kids will do that to you.
So kind of going back to what I had said just a minute ago about, sometimes I feel like even in my own generation, I'm like the old soul in that because I started at a young age and everything. What do you feel like the newer generation of coaches is missing? Because, and you'd probably agree with this, I remember always saying, especially in the online space, I would tell people like, I hire on my team if they've been an in-person coach before. Like that's a prerequisite to being an online coach. In fact, that was the advice given to me. Hey, do this for 5 years straight, and then you have the right to go online and do something. And I did it for 6.5 before I started doing anything online. But then COVID hit. And that was the excuse of like, well, you can't go find a gym like that anymore, and all these gyms are shutting down. There's not as many places. And then like, hey, there's not as many seminars anymore. I can't really go to these events because everything is online, and a webinar just does not, it's not even remotely close to the same thing as going live in person somewhere. And so I feel like there's been, and I don't even always have the answer as to like debate that. Cause I'm like, it's true. Sorry. Yeah, it's true. It sucks, but you got to do something about it. What do you feel like is missing, and what is the advice you would give the younger generation? Like me, if I wasn't, 8 years into my business, 15 years into coaching already, but the youngins in the game.
I think what's missing is that there's a perception that going online and doing everything digitally is easier and a more proven path to success. Marketers communicate in certainty. But if you think about like how, I mean, digital marketing's been around for a long time, but like you said, COVID was a pivot point where you saw a lot of people like give up on the idea of being an in-person coach and they're going to go online. That certainty that those marketers like sold them on, I think has made them a little, it's an illusion. You know, if you can't become the best trainer in your community amongst, say, 100 other trainers, okay, what makes you think you're going to stand out amongst 100,000 other ones? When everybody's buying the same products with the same tactics, with the same messaging. So I think there's this illusion that it's easier online. I also think that there is a level of entitlement now where people believe that they should be making more money right away. And I think that's another kind of product of our times. The reality is how good you are is what determines how well you're paid. Not that you checked off a couple certifications or that you had a fancy dancy internship somewhere. Like none of that really matters until like you've got some skin in the game and you're doing the job. And I think a lot of young coaches think it's easier to do it on their own. Like, quite frankly, most coaches would make way more money working for somebody like me than they will on their own. That's just a fact. I can pay better. I can give you benefits. I do all your like acquisition and lead gen. We provide kind of ancillary support to help with retention. Like, and you get paid time off. Like, so it's like, but that message I think is overshadowed by all the talk of like being an entrepreneur, ownership, which listen, I'm a huge fan of that. I just don't think that it's for everybody. In fact, I don't think it's for most people. I would never discourage somebody for like walking that road, like at all. But the reality is it's a lonely road. You know, it's not for everybody. And you spend, you know, you're 20, so from 20 to 26, right, when everybody tells you YOLO, and you're out here trying to build your own thing and you never get anywhere, you know, that's 6 years missed of you being able to be mentored by somebody who could really help collapse time and put you in a much better position. So I think the online world is here to stay, but I think it's an illusion that it's easier and you're more likely to be successful and that ownership and entrepreneurship is the path for everybody, because it's just not.
It's not what everybody wants to hear.
Oh, I know.
But it's so true, man. It's so true. You know, I don't know. Have you ever said, I don't know if this is like, I'm stealing your slogan, but like coaching first? I feel like maybe that's something you said.
That's what we talk about all the time. Okay, coaching
perfect.
First. Yeah.
I feel like I was thinking maybe I've heard this from you before, but yeah. I mean, dude, like I didn't get somebody to tell me that advice really back then. I just naturally, and it's because when I started, there was no Instagram, you know, like I started just trying to be a great coach. And the more I saw that I didn't understand, the more desire I had to learn and figure it out, right? And I wanted to I just became obsessed with training and programming and working out because I was learning. And I was really blessed. I was working out with dudes that were in their 30s and I was just turning 20. You know, it was life-changing for me. But I didn't even realize it at the time, because it just seemed like an obvious path. And I do think nowadays it's not as obvious and there's not as many, I don't want to say opportunity, because I think that opportunity, if I say there's not as many opportunities, people would assume that to be a bad thing, but you have to seek out opportunities. I had to find a place, and then I had to apply and interview for an internship, and then I had to work for free for months. And then I had to your point, try to become the best while I didn't have a big client load. I was running classes while also going to school and working at a community center, graveyard shifts, like trying to make some extra cash, when really I was just sitting there reading like articles, you know, and funny that you said print it out, because I would print out articles all the time and read them. But I did that for so long, you know, before. I remember getting credit cards to be able to, like I would say, yes, I'll go to the Perform Better Summit with you. And then I would have to go to the bank, try to get a new credit card because I didn't have any money. I was like, I know this is going to pay off. And it did. But there is this unfortunate side of the world today that I think there is so much entitlement that people don't have that grind in them. And it didn't seem like a grind to me. It was fun. It was part of the process, you know. Do you have, I mean, how do you lead people on your team and like young coaches that reach out to you, or even your kids, man, of like making sure, you know, and that's a hard one for me because my daughter's young and I want to give her everything. And I make more money than what I saw when I was a kid. So I want to just spoil her, but I also, you know, there's that fine line that I'm trying to teach her. What is your mentality around that, man? And making sure that the ones that look up to you are doing it the right way.
I'm honest with them, and I ask a lot of questions about what like really matters to them. I think a lot of people are trying to fill in a hole in their heart with success, and whatever looks like the most successful path to the most money and significance, that's what people choose. And, you know, to kind of, you know, reference Tony Robbins, and I'll share this a little bit differently than most people, but it's like there's 6 human needs: certainty, uncertainty, significance, growth, love, and contribution. I believe, and this is a little bit different than what Tony talks about, this is kind of what I've taken from this, is that I think significance is the ultimate thing that every human being is seeking. Significance and belonging, right? So in pursuit of significance, people will usually choose certainty as a means to try to get it. If I have a big online following, that means I'm significant. If Cody's successful and he has a certain type of business, if I start one like that, well, that makes me significant too because I'm doing what Cody's doing, or a gym, or whatever. But I don't really think that that really provides significance. Those lower level ones, which are actually the higher level versions of your needs, are growth, love, and contribution. That's how you find real significance, through personal growth, like really leading from the heart, loving and caring for people, and then contributing in their lives. So that's what I try to do. The people that work for me, like we talked earlier, like I want everybody to be family. The reality is they're not, but I treat them like that. Like it's from my heart. I contribute in their lives. I invest in their personal growth. And like that's what I would tell somebody is if you don't have somebody doing that for you, that's the path to significance. It's not just like, oh, that's a hot new brand of clothes, I'm going to wear that. Oh, this is the type of content everybody's creating, I'm just going to replicate that. I understand why people choose that path, but I think it's the okie doke. It sets people up for a lot of failure. And to like reference Cal Newport, he's got a great book called So Good They Can't Ignore You. Like that's the mission. And how are you going to be so good that nobody can ignore you if you're just doing what everybody else does? And I think that is what, unfortunately, this kind of online world has facilitated. And I'm not hating. Like, if there's anybody listening, like, don't let me deter you, man. Like, get after it. But I would ask yourself some questions. Like, am I doing this for the right reason? Because there's a lot of people that can be significant in other ways. As you know, like, not everybody with a big following has any idea how to monetize that following. There are people with big followings that are nowhere near as successful as people that are working at Equinox, right? It's just they perceive it to be more successful. I know the coaches in my building have a real opportunity to grow. They make a gigantic impact in the community. We talk about becoming local legends. You know, you help a couple hundred kids make their dreams come true. I would argue that's more significant than having 1 million followers online. You just have to make the decision about like what matters most to you.
Oh, that's so good, man. I think that, I mean, this is all coming, you know, I agree 100%. And this is coming from somebody who solely runs an online business. Yeah. I don't do anything in person. Right. Man, we were at one of my daughter's cheerleading practices like a month or so ago, and it was at the track. And this guy who I didn't know who it was walking around the track in a tailored shirt. And so I hopped the fence and I went and started talking to him, and he was somebody who worked with one of my coaches. And then this other lady walks up and she's like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. I work with Coach Brandon." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And, you know, and then the dude coaching the football, the Pee Wee football, walks over, and it was a guy I used to train when he was in college football at Vigor in the summers. And he was like, "Hey, Cody, it's been a minute, man." And it was like this moment of, you know, community and people. And my daughter just started playing sports. So this is like the first exposure to this kind of stuff. I can't tell you how great that feels. You know what I mean? And that has nothing to do with followers, because those people don't give a shit about how many followers I have or anything like that. And I think that, I know for me, I'm not going to take it this route, but that's actually what got me on a path trying to find God in my life, because I did have a hole in my heart and I checked off all these boxes and I was still empty. And I actually felt even more alone, because when you build a business, you see a lot of people's true colors, unfortunately, you know? And so I 100% agree, man. I could not agree more. And I think it is brutal advice, but it is really, really good advice to give these people.
Well, I'll take it there real quick. I think people undervalue the importance of believing in something bigger than yourself. We are engrossed in a world of me. And I don't think that's the best position to create impact from. I would never tell anybody what to believe in. Happy to share what I believe, but I think you need to have something bigger than you. Even if that's just simply a set of values that you stand for, that are your North Star, that pull you in the right direction. And I'd have you consider that if your North Star is just becoming popular and making a lot of money, there will be a point in time in your life where you have to look yourself in the mirror and go, man, like, this isn't it. There are very few people that find fulfillment, or what they would call in the world of positive psychology, a life that is flourishing simply by chasing those things. So we need to have things bigger than us. And maybe that's building a business. Maybe that's impact. Maybe it's God. Like, again, I'm not going to tell anybody what to believe. But you need something bigger than you to pull you along, especially during the hard times.
So you mentioned something earlier, and I feel like it relates this a little bit, or it's a good transition with it. You mentioned like a chip on your shoulder, just briefly,
Yeah.
And I think I had that similar thing. And I think it sounds negative saying you have a chip on your shoulder, but man, it drove me, and it helps. Was there a point where people stopped doubting you, or it was clear that you weren't going to fail because it's known by you and those around you, like you're going to make shit happen no matter what. You're going to keep moving forward. You're very motivated and driven to be successful and to help serve those around you, where that chip on your shoulder left and it was almost like a bad thing for you personally? Or did you evolve through that process and it didn't faze you?
I think I probably evolved through it. Like, I don't remember a certain moment. Like, what I know there were people that doubted me. People said, you'll never train professional athletes down there. Like, people told me, I remember going back home and visiting friends and hearing that somebody said this or somebody said that. And I was like, oh, okay, word? Like, really? Like, that's what you believe? But I kind of positioned it in my mind, like, it's none of my business. Like, that's none of my business. But there was a moment, I won't say who it was, but I drove a very long way to go meet this gym owner who was really well respected. And when I got in there and I looked around, I was like, oh wow, like, he's just a human. Like, he's just a dude. And I think that, and I was training some very significant athletes at that time, but not really getting the credit or online significance for it. And I remember having this moment where it's like, oh, I can do this. And I think it allowed me to kind of drop the chip a little bit, at least becoming more tactical with how I would leverage it and use it, instead of it like being my main driver. When I realized, like, sometimes we build our heroes and our idols up bigger than they are, and that can it can keep that chip on our shoulder as the main driver for our success. But the minute that I humanized that person, I was like, oh man, like, he bleeds red, I bleed red, like, I'm doing things similar to this. Like, I don't need to have a chip. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing. And if I keep doing it, it's going to pay off.
See, and I feel like that's the positive side of comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I don't necessarily disagree with that quote. But I do think that sometimes, like, if I'm a gym owner and I'm looking at you and I'm a little part of me, not in negative ways, but it's envious. Like, I'm like, man, I want what he has. He's crushing it. And instead of me getting down that I don't have it, you can say that you've been in business for twice as long, and it fires me up. And I'm like, there's nothing that separates me from him outside of time. And I got time, And I think that too many people compare and just stop right there. Instead of just digging into it, compare the whole picture, compare their background, compare their environment, compare their history, compare their struggles. Like, what did they go through to get there? How long did it take? And when you really realize all that stuff, to your point, it does humanize them, and it fuels you to be able to do the same thing.
100%. And I think you said it earlier on, like, the key is to not create this like envious type of thing, because you don't know their struggles. You don't know really what's going on behind the scenes. Don't build them up so high in your mind that it creates this delta between you and them. Use what you see as motivation. Oh, he's been doing it this long. I've been doing it this long. I just got to stay the path. Oh, he learned from this person. He learned from that person. How can I pay them to learn from them? Right? So it's just kind of, the comparison can have value. It's all the frame, that you put in your mind regarding it.
One of my favorite quotes around that is from a guy, Pastor Keith Craft. He's an author, pastor, entrepreneur. He says there's 3 responses that people have when they're around greatness, and that's envy, insecurity, or inspiration, right? So envy being like you hate on them. We all know those people. Insecure, where you go away, you quit, you don't hide. And then inspiration is like you follow, you tag along, you try to ask questions, you try to dig deeper and learn about that. And that's actually something that I think helped me early on too. Like the easiest memory of it is meditation. I was so, it's like woo woo and I don't, all this crap, you know? And I remember being like, oh, Tony Robbins does that. Oh, this guy does that. And then Rob Dyrdek was the one for me because I grew up skateboarding. So as soon as I heard Rob Dyrdek does all this stuff and how successful he was, especially compared to any other skateboarder, I instantly was like, okay, maybe there's more to this. And I started just getting obsessed with learning about, I don't know if you listen to the Founders podcast, but that's a good example of like listening to their story and how they did things, what they did, what were their habits, what was their lifestyle, and trying to like learn from people's, documented journey is just such a powerful thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I call it finding gold. And I've said if I was given like one talent, it was the ability to find the gold in like other people's path, meaning like who did they learn from? What books did they read? What do their behaviors look like? And then looking like what am I not doing in that area? And then being open-minded enough to step into it. And I had a very similar experience with meditation that I often attribute to changing my life. I mean, it was like around 2013 when I started meditating, and man, it was rocket fuel for me. I was all sympathetic, just all fire and drive. I had no idea how to shut down and turn off. That allowed me to create space for thinking and reflection and really get clear on like who I wanted to become. Who do I really want to be? Instead of getting locked in this identity of like somebody that needs to smash red lines and ephedrine and, always be on fire all the time and then, chase it down with some drinks at night to calm down. And it's like it helped me shift into a better person. But I'm addicted to books. I mean, I think, you've done a lot of reading, and if somebody that I respect tells me they read a book and they loved it, I'm already on Amazon, right?
Me too.
If I hear about a course or I hear about somebody else, like I'm already on. And it's like, I think some people, their ego doesn't allow them to do that for some reason, but it's really hard for me to understand. For me, it's like if they are successful and I believe they're smart and I respect them, I'm going to steal or borrow as much of that as I can. And if they're open to me about what those resources are, like I'm not going to take that for granted either. I'm going to make sure that I take action on that.
Yeah, and because that doesn't take away from anything right?
At all.
It just adds to it, which that's actually a good segue because I had a question for you around mentorship. And I think that I've often told people at times like, hey, at the end of the day, sometimes you got to pay to be in certain circles, whether it's just literally not necessarily just because you want their network, which is an added benefit to investing in mentorship, but also when you hire somebody, they just know more than you. They've done more than you. They've lost more than you. They've won more than you. It's like learn from them so you can skip ahead a little bit. And I know you're big on this, especially with what you guys do at these events around the country. How important is mentorship? Has it been for you and your success, and in what role it plays, you think it plays in people who are building their business today?
It's everything. There's nothing special about me other than a willingness to like step into environments and pay for people better than me's time. I just got back from visiting 2 buddies of mine that between them both, they own about 14, 15 gyms. I needed to figure out a specific hiring funnel. And I'd say, hey, like, what do I got to do to come up there? And they said, this is what it is. We'll come up. We'll spend a whole day together. I said, well, here's the money. Take that. Fly up there and do it. I spend $40,000, $50,000 a year on coaches for myself. And I have for, at least a decade, probably more than that, honestly. It's probably closer to 13 to 15 years. I've invested a couple college educations in mentorship for sure. And it's been the most significant thing in my life. And I made a point, and now I pay that forward. Luca and I have built to last, and we teach people the same things. And I shot a video for our community literally yesterday, and I posted it today inside our Circle community, where I was talking about the value of live events for that specifically. That nowadays people don't want to get out and connect with other people. And what I shared with them is this idea, like there really is no such thing as an online community. This is a term that we've used, but there is engagement, but there's no real connection. Connection happens when you get in the same room with other people who are trying to do what you want to do. And you've got a leader who's been there, but you've got other people that are sharing that experience and that journey. And I think the combination of those two things and then taking it back to your staff or your team and teaching it to other people, that's how you solidify knowledge. And it's like without me driving across the country, flying, I'm 46 years old. You couldn't learn through a medium like this, 13 years ago. So we had to do it. And if I look at all the dudes that I was in masterminds with, mentorships with, they're all names everybody would know if I just started rattling them off right now. They're all people that are the most successful in the entire industry. And there are a handful of dudes, like my two buddies that I paid, between them both, they probably have less than 2,000 followers online. And combination, they've got about $18 million or so, in my estimate, based on their real estate and their company revenue. And they aren't that well known, and they smash 90% of well-known gym owners.
Yeah, it's such a. I think followers are not currency, and I think people forget that. It's one thing that I feel like I've always known. I've leveraged the online marketing game and social media and podcast stuff, obviously, because that's it's what we do. It's online.
Yeah.
But even to this day, man, it's like people ask me, well, what's your number one source of lead gen? And they'll ask, is it Instagram? Is it YouTube? And I'm like, no, it's word of mouth, referrals. We get really good results.
Yeah.
What about ads? We don't run ads. How do you get people from online? It's like, honestly, most people, it's SEO. I don't have to have a following for SEO. It's my website. So I think people, which is funny because the thing that actually helped me build my following, which isn't super massive, but to what it is, was not trying to get leads. It was because I loved creating content and educating people.
Well, and
that
you're
was
good.
it.
And you're good. Like you care.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you care about being good. And like, as long as I've known you, you've been that type of person. When I met you 13 years ago, like I recognized like this dude's like, he's got it. Like you cared. Right. And I don't think people care as much now about being good as they care about being significant and popular and having the vanity metrics. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that it's very hard to overcome. Like I get it and I'm empathetic to it. Like I get it, but I do think that causes a lot more problems than most people will admit. And there's plenty of like online marketers that are, here to exploit that, for their own benefit.
Yeah. That means a lot, first of all. Good for you. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a ton. And so I think this kind of encapsulates a lot of this topic. But if you had to put your finger on it, what separates world-class gyms / world-class coaches, let's say, and just the average Joe gym or the businesses that do fail within the first 5 years, in this industry?
I think there's two main things, operational excellence and personal leadership. So like really understanding like the cost of doing business, understanding your numbers, understanding margins, using that data to make strategic decisions. It's something that people don't talk about enough. I think that is way more important than a lot of things that are promoted. Yes, you need to learn how to market. Yes, you need to learn how to sell. Those are incredibly important qualities. But how you operate your gym from the top down and how you use data and metrics to make decisions is incredibly important. There are many people that I talk to that their margins are too tight to grow because of decisions they made 5 years ago. They don't really understand the implications of that. The second side of it is personal leadership. Being the type of person that does the things that are required to grow, whether you want to do it or not. You have to be willing to submit to the suck in the process, tamp down the ego, hire mentors and coaches, get close to people doing it better than you, and extract as much as you can from them. But once you've done that, you have to put it into action. And if things don't go the way you want it to go, you've got to look yourself in the mirror and ask why, and not project it onto the internet or onto your community or the fact everybody in my world believes trainers don't want to work these days. Like, it's something about you. Maybe you aren't good enough as a leader yet to attract those people. So if we focus on operational excellence and personal leadership, I think you got a heck of a chance. And then, like, if you're not good enough, you're just not good enough. And nobody wants to tell anybody that these days. But that's just the truth. I'm not going to sell you the free lunch, man. Like, most people will fail. But if you're willing to do the work, you got a much better chance of not failing.
Would you say that those two things almost take care of the sales and marketing to an extent, because if you, I don't know, the way I look at it is, because I've had people ask me, like, have you done, if I get on a sales call, it's done. Like, I'm great. But people ask me, like, well, what sales training have you done? I'm like, oh, really? I did like a Tony Robbins thing like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Maybe more, but like never done any sales training. And the reason is because we get great results and I have a high level of education, so I can answer any question and I can prove that what we do works. So when you have that level of confidence, it's kind of like it just sells itself,
Yes.
you know? But if you tackle those two things, that's what you get.
Yeah. And you believe in what you do.
Right.
Right. So like when you're trying to enroll, like the used car salesman thing, right? They get a lot of a bad name, but a lot of time there's this perception they're selling you a lemon, right? And they're trying to talk you into buying it. Whereas like, I'm good at this and I've got an opportunity here for you. Would you like to take it or not? And I think when you sell from that certainty and you have a high level of education, it is much easier to sell. And then now I have done a ton of sales stuff, from Sandler to Tom Hopkins to Zig Ziglar to NEPQ. Like I've done a ton of it. So then if you do like sharpen up on the skills, you'll be even better. But a lot of people just want to know the hack. Like, what's the script? Like, what do I say? What's the flow? But if you don't have that certainty and then that education to really back it up, you're not going to sell as well as you would if you did have that. So again, it's like back to coaching and like doing what's required to be really good at the job, and then taking that skill and transferring it into everything else, whether that's sales or marketing or whatever.
Well, and to your point, when you lead a team, you got to make sure that they can perform like you can. And so if you're great at selling, but you don't have the confidence in the fulfillment from your team, that's hard. And that makes selling harder because you don't have confidence unless the fulfillment's there,
It's why a lot of coaches stay doing all the work themselves, because they aren't as confident that when they unplug themselves that the product will still be good. And I think that is something that, I've had to confront it. I've had to I had to understand that I have great coaches, but they're probably not going to be as good as me. They haven't done it as long. But if they're 80% as good as me, and I've put bumpers around things, right? This is how we do things here. They can certainly serve people at a very high level. And then as a leader, like, you got to give people the opportunity to do it. And then you have to be able to measure that performance in some way and reflect back to them whether it's good enough or not. If it's not, guess what? It's still on you to help them fix it, right? Now it's time for you to invest in their ability, whether that's sales, coaching, training, marketing, or whatever their role is inside the business. The leader mentality is like, it's always on you no matter what. The question is, are you willing to do what's required to grow your team, or do you want to take the ball back and just kind of do it all on your own?
Yeah, man, it took way longer to figure out how to build a team that can perform really well and that can get results, and that way longer than I expected. I'm like, well, I'm great at this, so I'm just going to show them what I do, and they're going to do it too. Nope.
No, not how it goes. Sure, it's still skill. I'm still getting better at it. I'm still paying for guidance in that area, and I probably will for forever. That's being a leader is a lot bigger than just reading a book like Extreme Ownership or whatever. Like, great book, by the way, but it's like you can't just like read a leadership book and become a leader. Like, there's so much nuance to it that you got to be really in the game. You got to be in the fight.
Well, and I think that goes back to the however many, I think you said 6 needs of humans. You said growth was one of them. Like you just said it, you're going to keep learning that probably forever. Even if you feel like you got shit on lock, you're going to keep learning, because the part of growing and knowing more and learning more and being better, like, that's part of fulfillment in life. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I love it, man. Okay. So we got a few wrap up questions here to finish things off. Speaking of extreme ownership, this first segment is sponsored by Jocko Fuel. So use Choose Hard as the coupon code. You get 20%. That's what I'm drinking right now, is this Jocko Go. So the question for this segment, sponsored by Jocko Fuel, is, what's something you saw or were taught, well, I'm excited about this, while growing up that helped you shape your success today, which you feel today's world has lost touch of or needs a reminder? So something that sticks out that really helped shape who you are from, childhood or teenage years or early career or anything, just like as you were developing as a man, and you feel like today's world is not getting enough of that today. What's that lesson?
I don't know if anybody directly taught me this, but I realized very early on that like nobody owes you anything. Like you're not owed anything. Like you've got to scrap, you've got to fight, you've got to do what you got to do to keep your head above water. And if you learn how to do that and you build skills around it, it's a master skill. The minute you think you're entitled to some outcome because you've done things that somebody else you respect has done, you're setting yourself up for a lot of misery and headache.
I love that. I think I agree. I think doing things because you want to serve others, not because you want something in return from others.
Yeah.
That alone, man, is just, you remove that resentment or that expectation and you're just doing things. This was actually a big shift for me in the midst of my entrepreneurial career. And when I really found my faith, it helped a lot because it was almost like, I love languages are great. There's nothing like bad against them. But I found that I read it, took the test, me and my wife, and I'm words of affirmation. I was like, that makes sense. But then I found myself noticing I'm like seeking that more. And if I didn't get it, now I'm upset. And I'm like, well, was that why I did it? And once I got more in touch with God, then it was this internal voice of like, Cody, you're doing the right thing. You're leading the way you need to lead and following your purpose. That's all I needed. And it wasn't about getting anything returned from other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it resonates with me a lot. I totally get that. And a similar principle, but what came to mind before you went that deep on me was this idea of what I call commission breath. It's like I can tell when somebody is like selling me on something. They want to do something for me so they can benefit from it later on. And I think if you're around a lot of, if you're a savvy person, you see more of that now than ever. So it's like doing things for others with no expectation of anything in return, I think is an incredible character trait that more people should try on. Because ironically, you do that for real and good things usually come back to you.
Hey, you know what's crazy is like something we were talking about before we started recording. One of the reasons I had a resistance to text that individual was because I didn't want that assumption to be made. So I'm like, I don't need anything. This isn't about that. And I don't want it to be, because I know how it is. And sometimes that happens more often than somebody just generally being nice. It's like they want something. Yes. What is it? So like, how do I word this to make sure that he knows, that's not what this is. So it's funny you say that because I've never heard that. You called it what? Commission breath?
Commission breath. You can
like
smell
that.
it on them. Yeah.
I like that. All right. This next one is sponsored by our merch shop. So again, Choose Hard is the coupon code for everything. 20% on all of our merch, journals, hats, everything like that. This one's probably going to be hard for you because I know you're a reader, man. What book does everyone listening to this podcast right now need to listen to or need to read?
Yeah, that's
as you got like stacks of books.
Yeah, because I could give it like for different things. I'll give you an answer that probably everybody has said because it's just one of those classic books that everybody should read, but it allows me to kind of be neutral in this area. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is still an absolute classic. Every coach that comes into our world, we have them read it. And I think it lends itself to like what we were just talking about, not just doing things to get something out of it. I think that is a fantastic book. I'll give you Charisma Myth, I think is really good for people that have to be out in the open and communicating and connecting with people. I think Crucial Conversations is another one we have every coach read. Just like learning how to communicate is so important. The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, I think is incredibly fascinating. Pretty much everything Robert Greene, Mastery by Robert Greene, and all his other ones. Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy. Those are fantastic books and reads. I could rattle books for forever on this, but there's a couple that I think, the Four Agreements, I'll throw that one out there too. If everybody reads those books right there, I think your life would be a little bit better. Yeah.
I have all those books except the Charisma Myth. I'm going to have to check that out because that one I haven't. Personal question around this. Are you strictly reading? Do you listen to audiobooks? Are you, I do this sometimes. I do both. I listen while I read it. That helps me. What is your style?
I do that sometimes, especially on airplanes. It kind of just helps me lock in even more. But my method I read 3 books at a time, and I usually listen to 1 to 2 audiobooks a month. So I read 10 pages in the morning in one book, 10 pages at lunch in another, 10 pages at night. That gets me through 3 books a month because the average book is about 300 pages. And then when I'm in my car, I'm always listening to an audiobook or a podcast as well. So that's kind of my personal method of information consumption that's really worked well for me.
Strategic. I like that, man. All right. Last segment, and then we'll wrap up with the final question that I ask everybody. And this one is sponsored by our app, Tailored Trainer, which you can download and actually just use for free if you need workouts. Premium version costs money. Not everything's for free, as he said, no free lunch. But go check out the freemium version. Overrated and underrated. Choose anything you want. 1 overrated, 1 underrated, and anything goes here. So you can be talking business, life, social media, just the world today, whatever, sports, anything, music, whatever you want.
Everybody's going to hate me on this one, Cody. Overrated, social media. So everybody's going to hate me on that one, but I'm going to say it. Overrated.
I don't think they will. I think everybody would be like, I agree, but I have to do it. I feel like it's the answer for a lot of people.
It's the ratio of creation to consumption, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that's my overrated. And kind of in the spirit of communication, I'm going to say underrated is like face-to-face connection with people, actually calling people on the phone and talking to them, going and meeting with people in person. I just think that is real connection. And there's certain people that you can only reach them by text. You're never going to see them in person. We live behind digital communications, and I just think in-person connection, and like I said, I'll even throw the phone in there. If I can hear your voice, that's better than me just that's why I send so many voice notes. It's that I want people to hear my voice, and I want to hear yours, So
yeah.
That's what I'll give you, overrated, underrated.
I love it, man. All right, last one to wrap it up. What does choose hard mean to you?
Man, I love choose hard. Step into the arena. There's another book called The Comfort Crisis. I don't know if you ever read that by
I literally
Mike Leister.
just got that.
Did you? Yeah. That's a great book. And so I guess, I've had bilateral hip replacements, and that was about 7 years ago. But about 4 years ago, me and a buddy of mine did the rim to rim in the Grand Canyon. And that was my first Musogi, in which they talk about in Comfort Crisis, where it's like you do something so challenging every year that you don't know if you're going to be able to finish it or not. And I think that helps reset your temperature, your belief in yourself, of what you think is possible. In fact, in October, I'll share something that I'm going to go do that's pretty wild. I'm going to be taking almost the whole month of October off to go do this. I don't want to put it out here to the world. All these people don't know me. They might think I'm kind of crazy, but it's a pretty big deal, and it's certainly my Musogi for this year. So I think, choosing hard means stepping into things that allow you to redefine yourself and become a better version because of the struggle associated with it.
So good. I love that answer. And I'm not done with the book yet, but highly recommend it so far. Everything that guy does, it's really cool. His journey, his story, and everything like that. So, dude, thank you so much for everything today. This has been a blast. And for everything over the years, man, you've been a huge guide and mentor and friend to me for a long time now, and I appreciate it more than I can say. So just let everybody know real quick, one, where they can find you on the thing that you think is overrated, social media, and also where they can check out your events that you're doing with Luca, because I know you guys got something coming up.
Yeah. So you can find me on the Instagram. I am there. I may not respond immediately. Give me a day or two, but it's Andy McCloy _BCI. B as in boy, C as in cat, I as incorporated. That stands technically for Body Creations Incorporated. So Andy McCloy _BCI. Luca and I run a mastermind for gym owners where we help them become operationally excellent. We teach them how to install personal leadership strategies and amongst other things. We have an event coming up in December in Nashville. We've got an event coming up in February in Phoenix and another one in July that will actually be in good old Seattle, Renton area. And you can learn more about that by going to builttolastgym.com. Or you can certainly send me a private message and I'll shoot you over the details.
Love it. I'll put all that in the description of this podcast so you guys can just click and go check those out immediately. And follow Andy, which I highly recommend because he has just so much experience in the game, extremely knowledgeable, and you can definitely pull a lot of wisdom from this man. So, dude, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And we got to have you back on again soon.
Anytime, brother.